Patricia, it is such a pleasure to catch up with you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. In fact, I get to talk to you, so that's just a highlight and a delight at the same time. We've spoken before a few times, and I'm always interested in what you're doing to research your books. And in this one, you trained with NASA, is what I heard.
Well, yes, about 4 years ago when I decided I wanted to try my hand at starting a new series and what kind of new hero would I develop? Back in the day with Scarpetta, that meant going to the morgue and the labs because nobody knew much about that. So I
Hmm.
thought, what would I do today? And my first thought was I would go to NASA because that's where all the really cool technologies are being developed, not just for space, but for so many different things that they're involved in. And that began opening many doors in terms of my getting ideas. For example, a lot of people don't know that NASA has a protective services. They have their own police department that protects their 10 different centers around the United States. You can imagine why they need that when you think of what goes on at Johnson Space Center and Kennedy and so forth. And so that was one of the things I thought, okay, so Captain Chase can be a cyber investigator for protective services. She's also a quantum physicist and a test pilot. And I know it may sound crazy, but there are really people who do all those things at NASA. But she's also a real human being, someone just like you and me who grew up in sort of a simple part of the world on the water in Hampton, Virginia. She and her twin sister, Karma, not really knowing early on that from the beginning of time, they have been groomed to be part of a secret project called the Gemini Project, which is all about creating the perfect sort of guardian for our universe. The people who are going, who are now with Space Force, it's where it's not just about walking on the moon anymore. It's about protecting our assets up there and securing
Hmm.
more of them in the future. And so I'm going to show people what happens when crime goes to space.
It's a terrific book. But you know what always surprises me about your writing, Patricia, is that subtle humor that you put into it as well. It just keeps you glued to the pages.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because that is one thing that is different for sure. The spin, quantum as opposed to the Scarpetta books and some other things I've written, including Jack the Ripper, is this does have a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor. I mean, if you look at the names, for example, Neva Wrong, Rong. Of course, she's going to be a villain with a name like that, and she's sort of like I, as I say, she's the Darth Vader of the tech billionaire world, and she wants total
Mm.
domination of not just this planet. But see, a lot of people don't realize we're going to be putting habitats on the moon in the next few years, and then there'll also be satellites around the moon because you've got to have GPS and communication up there. Somebody's going to be launching all those rockets with all those satellites. And I tell you what, you don't want the wrong person controlling your GPS because they might just decide you don't quite get where you need to go in the nick of time if you're one military power, opposed to another. So all of this affects everybody down here. I've had people say, well, space doesn't apply to me. Oh, yes, it does. And when you read Spin, I think what I think you're going to find is just as forensics help you to unlock the secrets about who did it and why, the science that space science helps you unlock the secrets of who are we and why, and maybe where are we from and why do we keep wanting to go up there and what is this all about? And I think people are going to have a really good time with this, I hope.
The inventions that authors think of are going to be science fact later.
Well, that's one of the things I like to remind creative people about. Look at what Gene Roddenberry did with Star Trek, and you know that there are people that have grown up for decades who have been inspired to have scientific inventions because of things that artists have done. I mean, Da Vinci was sketching a helicopter back in the 16th century. Um, and Socrates in 400 something BC, he was describing what the earth looked like from a distance. He described it as like a patchwork athletic ball of different colored pieces of leather sewn together. And you have to ask a question, how did he know what the earth looked like from above? You can't see that from any mountaintop. And he wasn't in an airplane that I know of. But, so there are these things. You're right. There things are cyclical. Even in the Bible, it talks about like Elijah going up in a
Mm.
whirlwind of fire. Almost sounds like you're describing a rocket. So it is fascinating to watch what's being done, and some of it is just a different version of things we've done before. Probably things we it may be things that have been done before we even have memory of them. Who knows?
Who knows? It's somewhere in the human genome that we are creative and problem solving individuals, and it doesn't stop there. So I mean, I love the fact that you write about this.
Well, listen, I couldn't do science in school and I couldn't do math, but I can describe things that might inspire somebody else to use those skill sets to actually create something like that. And I think artists are capable of doing that, whether you're film writers or a painter or a writer, whatever it may be. That we all should be
Hmm.
thinking, opening our minds to new ideas, because it tells us more about ourselves. And stories are so important because if we don't have stories, I don't know how we know who we are or how we're supposed to act.
In our last few minutes that we have together, are you looking at maybe taking the Captain Chase series and making it into a movie? Have you been approached?
I've been in discussions with a number of people about how to bring this probably to the small screen. TV might be a much better home, like a series. And so there are some
Hmm.
conversations about that, and I'm hopeful that that's going to happen. That was one of the big reasons I wanted to do this, is that because so many people, listen and they watch, and if they're not going to read, they may not know about things that they should know about. But that there is talk about that, and for those of my friends out there who are also Scarpetta fans, you'll be happy to know that I have a new one in the works for that also. That will be out the end of the year. With the way we've all been having to endure of what's going on in this world, I thought this might be a good time to see what she has to say about everything.
Patricia, it is always great to talk to you, my friend, and
Thank
I
you.
love that you are so prolific and you never repeat yourself. So that's part of your gift to us as readers. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. See you next time.